Here is the plaque marking the site of the first public schoolhouse in California, for that matter. Up until it was 1848, the building was erected in 1847, not the plaque. Up until 1880, the gender imbalance in California was 70-30, seven men for every 3 women. Why? Because it was a gold rush. It was a pioneer state. It was a place where crazies, that is men, came to. The women were smart. They stayed home and where life was good and better. But the men were looking for a quick way to make money. And why were they doing that? Because we can be confident no one would have done that unless they felt oppressed where they were. Just as the Europeans were leaving Europe to come to the United States to find, I would suggest, to find land as an opportunity. So Americans were finding that all the land on the East Coast was already owned by the Carnegies of the world, by the J.P. Mellons, by the Rockefellers of the world. And so they were coming west looking for their own opportunity. Nevertheless, first public schoolhouse opened here in 1848, which is my opportunity to introduce you to the woman I consider to be the most important school teacher in world history. And who might that be? Well, that would be Kate Kennedy. There's a Kate Kennedy preschool here in San Francisco, part of the public school system, still named for her. Why is she so wonderful? Well, follow this line. She established equal pay for women worldwide. The first time by law women were paid at the same rate as men was on account of this woman. So that's why in my book she's so important. But a little bit more about her. Interesting story. Born in 1827 in Ireland. Up until 1827, the English, who owned Ireland, had outlawed education. There was no equivalent to public education in Ireland. The concern was an educated Irishman will revolt. So we want to have an ignorant mass of farmers there. The primary product of Ireland at that time was, in fact, the potato. In 1845, a plant disease destroyed, as it turned out for the next 6 years, 50% of that crop. The problem for the Irish was that 3,000 Englishmen owned Ireland. If you were Irish and lived in Ireland, you had to pay the English to live in Ireland. And what you had to pay as rent was equivalent to everything produced in Ireland except 1/2 of the potato crop. So in 1845, when 1/2 of the potato crop died, the English landlords persisted in collecting 1/2 of the potato crop and leaving the half that did not succeed for the Irish. 1 million men, women, and children died of starvation in Ireland between 1845 and 1851. So Kate Kennedy was part of the Irish migration to the United States on account of that circumstance. First coming to New York City and then stopping in San Francisco. She eventually went into education as a school teacher. She left her politics behind in Ireland. She had been a member of Young Ireland, which was the predecessor of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, the resistance to the English occupation. She had been a member of that, but she gave that up when she came to the United States until in 1871 she met Henry George. And with that encounter, she re-entered politics and in 1873 succeeded in putting through a law that gave women the same pay as men for equal work. First time in world history. In 1886, she was the first woman to run for public office. She ran for superintendent of public schools. She didn't expect to win, and she didn't, but she got enough votes that of the 2 other candidates, both of whom were men, the one who thought that her votes had cost him the election had her fired from her position in education. He was in a position to be able to do that. She sued the school district, and in 1890, having taken her case to the state Supreme Court, she was given her position back, her back pay, and that is the beginning of civil service tenure in the United States, is her work. So again, I credit her with being my favorite school teacher because, one, she was a Georgist, but what did she do with that information and knowledge? Equal pay for women, civil service tenure, and advocacy of reforming the land law of the United States. While in Japan, he reads a book written by a San Franciscan, a fellow named Henry George, who writes a book entitled Progress and Poverty. Sun Yat-sen reads this and he says, that's what's going to transform China.
So he writes a book while here in exile. He was in San Francisco for a total of about 5 years, and while here he wrote the San Manchui, the 3 guiding principles of the people.